Ryan Cole thought he was hunting criminals in the Arizona desert, but when his own department turned against him, the hunter became the hunted. What began as a routine undercover mission spiraled into betrayal, disappearance, and whispers that he might still be out there, chasing the ghosts who destroyed his life. The summer heat in Mesa, Arizona, was the kind that clung to everything, from cracked sidewalks to the metal roofs of forgotten buildings. Beneath that heat, the town carried an unspoken tension. Local authorities had been struggling for months to contain a surge in illegal weapons trafficking spreading quietly through the outskirts. Ordinary arrests had done little. The people running the operation were ghosts, always one step ahead, leaving no trace behind. When the last sting ended with 2 officers dead and no suspects caught, the department knew it was time for a different approach. They needed someone to go inside, someone the criminals would never suspect. Detective Ryan Cole was chosen not just for his skill, but for his patience. He was known for reading danger before it happened, for walking into chaos and keeping his pulse steady. He had spent years handling narcotics and human trafficking cases, but this mission would be different. It wasn't about arrests or chases. It was about disappearing. Ryan was to become someone else entirely, a small-time gun runner from Nevada, drifting into Arizona to find business among the local dealers. His old life ended the moment his cover began. He moved into a decaying one-story house near the industrial district, surrounded by silence and dust. The neighbors barely looked at him, which was perfect. He bought a beat-up pickup truck, filled his small home with cheap furniture, and started frequenting local bars known for shady deals. Every action was calculated, every glance memorized. His new name, Rick Dawson, soon started circulating in the underground, a name whispered in corners where real names were rarely used. At first, things moved slowly. He started by selling small, harmless weapons to low-level dealers. His goal wasn't profit, it was trust. Within weeks, he was invited to backroom meetings, dimly lit gatherings where guns were traded like candy. The deeper he went, the clearer the network became. The operation stretched far beyond Mesa, reaching neighboring towns and crossing state lines. There were coded messages, unmarked trucks, and large payments in cash. It was a sophisticated web, not a local gang. Ryan sent encrypted reports to his handler every few days, careful not to reveal too much at once. But something began to change. The instructions he received started to conflict. One message told him to meet a supplier at a specific time. Another claimed the meeting was canceled. He began noticing cars parked too long near his street, shadows where none should be. Paranoia crept in, but he couldn't afford to show it. The success of the entire mission depended on his composure. One evening, under the pale orange sky, Ryan arrived at a warehouse for what was supposed to be a small exchange. As he waited, a van parked across the road caught his attention. Its tinted windows reflected sunlight, hiding whoever was inside. Minutes turned into an hour, but no one approached him. When he finally left, a chill settled in his gut. Something had shifted. Someone was watching, not the criminals, but someone closer to home. It was then he realized the danger might not only come from the streets, but from within his own department. The days after the warehouse incident felt heavier than usual, every moment filled with quiet unease. Ryan continued his role with precision, but a shadow of doubt followed him everywhere. The van he had seen that evening never appeared again, yet he couldn't shake the feeling that he had been deliberately observed. His reports to headquarters became more cautious. He filtered details, choosing his words carefully, uncertain who might be reading them. Trust, once his strongest instinct, was slowly fading. The operation began showing signs of outside interference. Meetings were rescheduled without his knowledge. Suspects disappeared before surveillance teams could locate them, and once secure informants went silent. Each disruption felt too coordinated to be a coincidence. Ryan's intuition told him there was a leak somewhere in the chain of command. Someone from within was feeding information to the very people he was trying to expose. He needed proof, but proof required patience, and patience was running thin. To maintain his cover, Ryan had to stay close to Victor Hayes, the man believed to control most of the weapons network, in Arizona. Victor was older, calm, and always 2 steps ahead. He trusted no one completely, but had begun to rely on Ryan's connections. Through this growing relationship, Ryan learned about upcoming shipments, hidden storage sites, and new routes being established across the desert. Each detail brought him closer to the truth, but also deeper into danger. The smallest mistake could unravel everything. Late one night, Ryan returned home to find his front door slightly open. His instincts kicked in immediately. He entered quietly, weapon ready, but the house was empty. Nothing was stolen, yet something was wrong. On his desk lay one of his encrypted phones, its screen shattered. It was the same device he used to send updates to headquarters. Someone had been there, someone who knew exactly what to look for. He didn't report it. He couldn't. If the leak was inside the department, any warning could tip them off. Instead, he switched tactics. He began leaving false information in his reports, small details meant to mislead anyone spying on him. If someone inside the system was betraying him, Ryan intended to find out who it was by watching where those false leads ended up. Days turned into weeks. His fake details began to surface during his meetings with Victor. That was the confirmation he needed. The leak wasn't just a possibility, it was real. Someone from within law enforcement was directly tied to the network. It explained the failed stings, the van, and the silence from trusted contacts. The realization weighed on him. He was no longer just undercover against a criminal organization. He was trapped between 2 worlds, one of crime and one of corruption. His mission had changed from infiltration to survival. Every conversation, every message, every move had to be planned as if both sides were listening. The next major exchange was being organized in a remote area beyond Mesa's outskirts. Ryan knew it could expose the traitor or end his life. Either way, he was ready to see how deep the betrayal ran. The night of the major exchange arrived under a moonless sky, heavy with the kind of silence that made even the desert feel tense. Ryan drove down a narrow dirt road miles from town, the headlights cutting through clouds of dust. The plan was simple on paper. He would deliver a fake shipment of weapons, gain Victor's full trust, and signal the backup team once the meeting began. It was supposed to be the final move before the takedown. But something about it didn't sit right. He hadn't heard from his handler in 2 days, and the usual coded confirmation never arrived. Every instinct in him screamed that something was off, but there was no turning back. He parked his truck beside the warehouse, its walls rusted and streaked with years of neglect. A handful of men were already there, unloading crates from another vehicle. Their movements were sharp and efficient, too quiet to be ordinary workers. Victor Hayes appeared moments later, wearing his usual calm expression. He nodded once at Ryan, but didn't speak. The air felt different, colder, heavier. Ryan waited for his chance to send the signal to the backup team, but the radio line remained dead. Static hissed through the earpiece. The silence on the other end confirmed his worst fear. There was no team. Victor motioned for Ryan to follow him inside. The warehouse smelled of oil and dust, and the dim light revealed a table stacked with documents and money. As Ryan approached, Victor tossed a folder onto the table. The papers slid open, and what Ryan saw made his heart freeze. It was his real police file, complete with his photograph, badge number, and mission details. His cover had been blown. He didn't need to ask how Victor had obtained it. The truth was clear. Someone from his own department had betrayed him, selling his identity to the very people he was trying to bring down. Before he could react, Victor's men surrounded him. He was disarmed, forced to the ground, and bound with zip ties. His mind raced, not in panic but in disbelief. He had trusted the system, and now it had turned against him. They dragged him outside and threw him into the back of a truck. The doors slammed shut, sealing him in darkness. The engine roared to life, and the vehicle began to move. Hours passed. He couldn't tell where they were going. When the truck finally stopped, he was pulled out into the open air. The faint sound of crickets told him they were far from the city. He was taken into a decaying roadside motel, where they locked him inside a room with boarded windows and a broken light. His hands throbbed from the restraints, his thoughts from the betrayal. Somewhere between exhaustion and rage, he realized the truth. There would be no rescue. The department thought he was dead already, or worse, they wanted him to be. For the next 2 days, he waited in silence, uncertain of what they planned to do with him. Every creak of the floor, every distant sound, felt like the prelude to his end. But deep inside, Ryan's resolve hardened. If he survived this, he wouldn't just expose the gun ring. He'd uncover whoever inside his own force had put him here. A week after Ryan's disappearance, the Arizona desert swallowed another secret. The sun was relentless, baking the earth until even the wind carried dust like ash. 2 hikers stumbled upon a burned-out car near the Salt River Canyon, its metal frame twisted and blackened by fire. Inside, among the melted remains, investigators found Ryan's badge, half destroyed by heat, and the fake ID he had used for his undercover role. There was no body, only fragments of cloth and traces of blood on the driver's seat. The discovery sent shockwaves through the department. What had started as a controlled operation had turned into a nightmare. The department immediately launched an internal investigation, though the silence surrounding Ryan's mission made it difficult to piece together what had happened. Only a few people had known the details of his cover, and every one of them was now under suspicion. Files were reviewed, communications traced, and confidential reports examined line by line. That's when they discovered something alarming. Several of Ryan's encrypted transmissions had been accessed without authorization. Someone inside the unit had been monitoring his movements and feeding them to the criminals. The search for the leak eventually led to Officer Jenna Price, Ryan's communications handler and one of the few who had direct access to his reports. Her work records showed irregularities, late-night logins, unrecorded message deletions, and multiple security breaches. When she was brought in for questioning, her composure cracked. At first, she denied everything, claiming it was a system glitch. But as evidence mounted, her voice faltered. Finally, she confessed. Jenna had been blackmailed. Her younger brother had fallen in with the same network Ryan was infiltrating. When Victor Hayes' men discovered her role in the undercover operation, they kidnapped her brother and gave her an ultimatum: leak Ryan's location or lose him forever. Terrified and desperate, she chose to protect her family, convincing herself that the criminals would only use the information to monitor Ryan, not kill him. But after she handed over the details, she never heard from them again. Her confession broke the department. Officers who had worked beside her for years could barely look at her. The betrayal wasn't out of greed or loyalty to the criminals. It was born from fear, the kind that turns good intentions into fatal mistakes. Jenna's cooperation led investigators to a warehouse in the desert where Victor Hayes had stored his weapons shipments. A raid was planned in silence, this time involving only a handful of trusted officers. The assault took place at midnight. The desert lit up with a flash of gunfire, echoing across the empty land. Dozens of Hayes' men were captured, the operation dismantled, and caches of illegal weapons seized. But Victor himself was gone. He had slipped away before the raid, leaving behind nothing but footprints leading into the open desert. The department declared the case partially closed, yet there was no celebration. They had lost a man, destroyed a life, and exposed corruption that reached too close to home. As for Ryan Cole, the file now carried a single line beneath his name: missing, presumed dead. But for those who had known him, that word presumed left a sliver of unease, as if the story wasn't finished. Months turned into years, but the story of Ryan Cole refused to fade. In the halls of the Arizona State Police Department, his name lingered like a ghost, a reminder of a mission that went terribly wrong. His badge, cleaned and framed, hung on the memorial wall alongside fallen officers. Every year, during the department's remembrance ceremony, his picture drew the longest silence. Officially, he was listed as missing and presumed dead, but for many, the uncertainty was worse than confirmation. His body had never been found, only the charred remains of his car. The desert was vast, and secrets there had a way of staying buried. Detective Jenna Price was released on parole after serving her sentence. The guilt had aged her far beyond her years. She moved to a small town near the border, living a quiet life far from the chaos she once knew. At night, She still woke from dreams where Ryan's voice called out through static, half memory, half punishment. She had tried to write to his family several times, but each letter ended the same way, torn into pieces before it ever left her hands. Then, one winter evening, a patrol unit stumbled upon something unexpected deep in the desert. An old cabin, isolated and silent. Its windows were boarded, but inside were signs of recent life. On a rough wooden table lay a collection of photographs, each one showing Victor Hayes in different locations over the years: gas stations, motels, truck stops. Alongside them were hand-drawn maps, lists of names, and detailed surveillance notes. But what caught their attention most was a police badge placed neatly in the center of the table. The name engraved on it was Ryan Cole. When the discovery reached the department, disbelief spread through every office. The items inside that cabin weren't the work of someone hiding from the law. They were the work of a man still chasing it. The handwriting on the notes matched Ryan's. The evidence suggested that he had survived the night of his betrayal and had continued tracking Victor on his own, outside official channels. Some believed he had gone rogue, driven by revenge. Others thought he was still trying to finish what the department couldn't. The case was reopened quietly, but the trail was cold. Victor Hayes had disappeared completely, leaving no trace in the criminal world he once ruled. Reports came in from the Mexican border, stories of a lone man living under different names, helping local police dismantle smuggling routes. None of them could be verified. The desert had swallowed the truth once again. Years later, Jenna visited the memorial wall one last time. She placed a single white rose beneath Ryan's photo, her reflection flickering in the polished glass. Somewhere deep down, she believed he was still alive, not for vengeance, but for purpose. The man who vanished in Arizona had become something else entirely, a shadow of justice moving through the dust. And though no one would ever know his fate for certain, one thing remained clear. The line between duty and obsession had disappeared the day the undercover operation went wrong.